Tonight, reducing the state sales tax.
Make sure that we're providing tax relief to all Texans, not just those that own property.
A proposal to save Texans more money is gaining traction from both sides of the aisle. We're joined live by one of the bill's authors. Plus, backlash on the border.
You will not handle it. You are forcing our hand.
Why the Mexican president is clashing with Republicans in Congress over the fentanyl crisis and cartels. And later, former President Donald Trump says he thinks he's going to be indicted this week, just days before a Texas rally. Capital Tonight starts right now. Thanks for joining us here on Capital Tonight. I'm Karina Kling. Thanks to Texas taxpayers, the state is flush with cash this legislative session. And now state lawmakers are trying to figure out how best to give that money back. GOP leaders are promising a big chunk of the budget surplus will go toward reducing property taxes. But there's growing bipartisan support to cut sales taxes as part of the bigger relief package. Since 1990, Texas has had a 6.25% sales tax rate, with local governments given the option to raise it to 8.25%. Those combined means Texas has the 14th highest sales tax rate in the nation, according to the Tax Foundation. The sales tax takes a bite out of your income every time you buy clothes, coffee, toilet paper, you name it. It's primarily responsible for the nearly $33 billion budget surplus. The bipartisan push to cut sales taxes has the backing of the governor, and as our Charlotte Scott reports, Texans are taking notice too.
Michelle Ward loads up her car with clothes and baskets from Goodwill. She spent about $60 on necessities for her family.
I love getting a good deal, and thrifting actually helps with my family's expenses and making sure that we can get really cool things and not have to pay a lot.
As a realtor, Ward is used to showing out-of-towners homes in Austin. Many are surprised when they realize how expensive it'll be to live here.
A lot of people come to Texas because there isn't a state income tax, but when they actually get here and realize how much they're paying in taxes in other respects and goods and services, then it really it tips the scale and it makes it even.
That's why she supports a bill to cut the sales tax rate from 6.25% to 5.75%. If it passes, Texans would save $1 for every $200 spent on taxable goods. Dallas area Senator Royce West filed the legislation. He has the support of nearby Republican Senator Bob Hall. 3 other Democrats have also signed on as co-authors, including El Paso area Senator Cesar Blanco. He says if the bill passes, it'd save Texans about $4 billion a year.
I think that helps address those Texans that rent, that don't own property. This is a way for them to save money.
Senator Blanco says cutting sales taxes and property taxes could provide a big benefit to all Texans, not just those who own homes.
Lowering the sales tax is a great idea, especially for working families here in Texas. People are really struggling in Austin to afford to live here. Things have really changed in the last 20 years that I've lived in the Austin area, and I think that might be a really nice gesture.
For Capital Tonight, I'm Charlotte Scott.
And with us now is one of the authors of the bill, Dallas area Democrat, Senator Royce West. Good to see you.
Karina, how are you doing?
Good. Thanks for being on with us. We've heard that the Houston Chronicle reported that the governor has voiced some support for this proposal. What about the lieutenant governor? Are you hearing any talk about tying this to a bigger property tax relief package?
Well, this will be a part of a bigger property tax relief effort. The question is what form will it take? Okay. Obviously, we are looking at a half-cent cut in sales tax, but we've got to also take in consideration several different policies. What will the growth be in the state of Texas in the future? Sales tax is obviously the main source of revenue in the state of Texas. So what will growth look like 4 or 5 years from now? So we've got to take that into consideration. And so I'm looking at the bill as it is, and also maybe another sales tax holiday. Okay. Looking at that also, but there will be something coming out in terms of reducing sales tax.
Yeah, I mean, I know that you're pushing this in addition to property taxes.
Exactly.
What is your take on just both being done and the benefit to Texans?
Well, the benefit is that we're giving money back to the people who actually put the money into our system in the first place. And it also is a bipartisan effort, and that's a big thing right there, because believe me, there are a lot of things that won't be bipartisan this session. But most people want to see sales tax and also property tax reduction.
What about if Texas experiences another economic recession? I mean, how sustainable is a sales tax rate cut?
And see, therein lies the policy consideration that we must take into consideration. Yes, we're flush with cash right now.
Yeah.
And there will be monies that will be put into our treasury that will be, we won't appropriate those dollars. They'll be sitting there for future rainy days, if you will. That's in addition to the rainy day fund that we have. And so we've got to make sure that we plan for when we have a downturn in the economy, and we're taking that into consideration. And that will be kind of I guess you could say, the balance between whether or not we do a straight half-cent sales tax reduction or end up doing some more sales tax holidays.
Who would benefit the most from this? I know we talk about all Texans and everybody pays sales taxes, but in terms of, there's so much talk about property taxes and the push towards that, and you want to expand this to more people. Who would this benefit the most? From
a percentage-wise, everyone. Now, everyone will benefit from sales tax. Everybody pays sales tax. And so the question becomes, what items do we, if we do a sales tax holiday, what additional items do we put in the sales tax holiday, and when will we have it during the session, so during the year? And so we've got to look at that, and will it be something that we do just for this upcoming biennium, or will we do it for future bienniums also? And so we're looking at those particular issues right there.
I want to ask you lastly, just because there are some progressive groups that say that they're not supporting this, and it's not just a sales tax cut, it's property taxes, because they say other things should take precedent, like expanding Medicaid and doing other things for increasing funding for public education. What's your response to that?
My response is, as it relates to education, we will be increasing funding for education. Teachers will get a pay raise. We'll make certain our retirees are taken care of, and there'll be more money put into the education system. There'll be over $600 million put into our school security funding needs. And so there's sufficient funds in order to do that. Now, in terms of Medicaid, I am for expanding Medicaid, but the political will is not there.
Yeah. Lastly, I know you've got some of the figures right in front of you, and it was mentioned in the story a little bit, but just how much are we talking in terms of what Texans could save in sales taxes?
Well, I mean, if we look at in terms of sales tax, the family of four could save some $500 to $600 a year, which is not significant in the grand total of things. But if you're in the lower income bracket, that's a lot of savings, probably 8% more for lower, 8 to 12% more for lower income than those of the higher income bracket.
$500-600 more that you didn't have in paying out that money. So Senator Royce Weston issue will continue to follow, and we'll get you back on and talk about other things as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Look forward to it. Take care.
Thank you. Hundreds rallied at the state capitol today to support LGBTQ rights. Advocates are pushing lawmakers to provide more protections for LGBTQ Texans. The event comes as a Texas Senate committee advanced a bill today that would ban gender-affirming medical care for transgender minors. It now heads to the full Senate for a vote. Activists also protested bills that may take aim at drag shows and restrict transgender athletes' participation in college sports.
That we are here to state and that we are worthy of living our lives with dignity and respect.
Ready? Trans rights!
Human rights!
Trans rights!
Human rights!
Trans rights!
Human rights!
Come on, Texas!
According to Equality Texas, there are 142 bills that have been filed that would provide more protections for LGBTQ Texans, and 140 bills they say would negatively affect the community. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas will be in El Paso on Wednesday. The trip comes as Republicans have been vocal in their criticism of Mayorkas, blaming him and President Biden for recent surges in migrant encounters. A group of GOP lawmakers traveled to McAllen last week for a hearing about the border, where they called Mayorkas incompetent and took aim at federal immigration policies. Mayorkas' office said his events in El Paso are closed to the press, but that he'll be there to engage with the workforce and meet with stakeholders. Meanwhile, Mexico's president is lashing out at U.S. lawmakers who are demanding the Biden administration classify Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations and authorize the U.S. military to help combat them. 2 congressional delegations traveled to Mexico City in the last week to bring their concerns directly to the Mexican leader. Our Washington reporter Rena Diamante has more.
It was really important to be able to go down there and discuss trade issues.
North Texas Congresswoman Beth Van Dyne was stateside Monday at a Republican gathering in Orlando after a meeting with Mexico's president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, in Mexico City. She was part of a House Ways and Means Committee delegation that discussed the issues of mutual concern, including the fentanyl crisis.
We'd like him to acknowledge the problem. What we saw from him over and over again was a complete denial and blame on the U.S.
Concern about Mexico's criminal cartels already were running high in the U.S. because of fentanyl smuggling. Then the killing of 2 kidnapped Americans this month in Tamaulipas, near the Texas border, added to those fears. 5 alleged members of a notorious Mexican cartel have been charged in the case.
Es mucho más seguro que en Estados Unidos.
Last week, López Obrador bashed U.S. advisories and warnings for Americans thinking of traveling to several Mexican states. He said Mexico is safer than the U.S. and pushed back against the Republican-led effort to use the military against the cartels. He called it an offense to Mexico's sovereignty.
He wanted to let us know that Mexico is so much safer than the U.S. You know, there's fact and there's fiction, and then there's this absolute fantasy. This man is living in a fantasy world.
López Obrador held this massive rally in Mexico City over the weekend. Some experts in U.S.-Mexico relations say his response to U.S. criticism is paying political dividends.
The appeal of this kind of fiery nationalist rhetoric for many of his supporters is that he's seen as standing up to U.S. imposition or U.S. aggression.
With Mexico having national elections this year and the U.S. next year, such fiery rhetoric is likely to continue on both sides of the border. Still, some experts say it's critical for both countries to cooperate in combating several shared problems.
That kind of militaristic rhetoric is going to do more harm than good at least for the foreseeable future.
Senator John Cornyn of Texas led a separate bipartisan delegation of House and Senate members to Mexico City. Cornyn said lawmakers made clear to López Obrador that his administration must do more to tackle the flow of drugs and other shared problems. In Washington, Rena Diamante, Capitol Tonight.
And still to come on Capitol Tonight, paying the price for power by a Texas court ruling is a shock to the electricity market. Plus, shopping for judges. The Justice Department accuses Texas of looking for a home court advantage. Welcome back. Let's get a check now of some of the other political stories making headlines across Texas. Some Texas-based companies resumed giving money to politicians who objected to certifying the 2020 election. 15 Texas-based corporations, including American and Southwest Airlines, contributed to a 57% overall increase in donations to these politicians between the 2020 and 2022 election cycles. That's according to a report from government watchdog group Accountable U.S. An appeals court ruled that the Texas Public Utilities Commission overstepped when it jacked up electricity prices to the highest rate during the 2021 winter storm. The commission had raised the rates to $9,000 per megawatt hour, and that led to billions in overcharges. The decision is not final since the court remanded the case for further consideration, and it could be appealed to the Texas Supreme Court. The Justice Department is challenging 3 Texas lawsuits against the Biden administration, accusing state politicians of so-called forum shopping. The DOJ says Texas prosecutors have been filing lawsuits in areas with judges it thinks will be sympathetic to their case. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton argues the state didn't break any rules. 2 of the government's challenges are still pending, and 1 was denied. We want to bring in the Quorum Report's Harvey Kronberg. Now, Harvey, good to see you as always.
Always a pleasure. Must be Monday.
It must be. What do you make of this effort to fight Texas on this so-called forum shopping or judge shopping?
Well, it doesn't surprise me, and it also doesn't surprise me that Republicans have discovered the fine art of forum shopping. That used to be something that Democrats did back when they were in charge. And one of the things that got the all pro-plaintiffs attorney Supreme Court beat back in 1989, if you can believe it, was people were angry about forum shopping. They would go to friendly courts, typically in Northeast Texas, and huge jury awards and very sympathetic judges. So in this case, the one case that we're all watching is the abortion pill. They found an obscure federal judge in Amarillo And the judge didn't even post the hearing because he didn't want to be controversial, except he's got a long history of being pro-life.
Yeah, and I know that's one that they may accuse. I know that's not one of the ones that the DOJ is pressing them on, but I mean, Paxton says he's not breaking any rules, so likelihood of anything changing with this?
It's hard. I haven't read what the DOJ's arguments are, but generally, I don't know of any prohibition in federal court for forum shopping.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Paxton also issued a legal opinion today saying that school choice is legal in Texas. The idea of using taxpayer dollars to send kids to private schools to allow parents to do that. I mean, this was requested by a state senator who is pushing for school choice or school vouchers. So what does this mean for this issue now?
Well, let's just remember it was Tim Dunn and the Wilkes brothers who have essentially funded Ken Paxton. These are petrodollar billionaires, very pro-school choice. AG opinions are just that, opinions. They do not have the force of law. And I've seen enough silly opinions to go by, including one from the current governor, to not take it very seriously at this stage. It'll have to be adjudicated. But generally speaking, we defer to AG opinions, even if we know they're in error.
What do you think this means for the issue of school choice, and not necessarily that legal opinion? Governor Abbott speaking at an event tomorrow at the Capitol. He's dubbing it Parent Empowerment Day at the Texas Capitol. He's been on this kind of tour doing these events around the state. It's about school vouchers. It's about what's being taught in classrooms. It's about empowering parents, as he said. With his support of this, how far do you think these measures
Well,
get?
you've got a governor and a lieutenant governor who are very pro-voucher. This is an initiative, again, from the same billionaires, through the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And we discovered when Glenn Youngkin beat Terry McAuliffe in Virginia that empowering parents was a really hot issue for Republicans. And so I do not think it's going to pass the House, but we could go to special session. But the thing that concerns me is that the language has gotten so inflamed around both trans and transgender students and schools that we have school board members being physically threatened, we have teachers being physically threatened, and the rhetoric is so inflamed around schools right now that I worry that up until now we've been looking at random violence in schools, and I'm afraid that the implicit argument with vouchers is that schools are failing, my kid's in a failed school, and somebody's going to do something crazy about that.
Yeah, and we'll see. I know there was a public school teachers that were there advocating at the Capitol last week, and now we'll see kind of how many people show up to this.
Well,
tomorrow.
He's been going to mostly rural districts because that's where most of the opposition is, and he's been going, but he's mostly been in private schools where they can reject you, they don't have to take you. It's typically about a $13,000 tuition. We're talking about an $8,000 voucher,
right.
Or education scholarship, or whatever you want to call it. So it does not look like it's something that's going to be accessible to the poor folks, the poor kids that actually need it the most.
Harvey Kronberg, we'll have to leave it there, and we'll talk to you again
Look forward to it.
I know you're going on vacation, so
Yes.
enjoy that. Thank you very much. In Washington, a budget proposal from the far-right House Freedom Caucus is being called a five-alarm fire from the White House. The group of lawmakers, including 7 Texans, is pushing for cuts across the board for all U.S. agencies, including those along the border. In a statement, the White House says the budget plan would make the U.S.-Mexico border less secure by eliminating funding for thousands of Border Patrol agents. Border security is a priority for House Republicans. Senior White House officials say serious budget negotiations between the president and the House Speaker won't start until Republicans can agree on a GOP plan for federal spending. Still to come on Capitol tonight, former President Donald Trump is heading back to Texas, why he's choosing to hold his first 2024 presidential campaign rally here. Welcome back. Former President Donald Trump's first 2024 campaign rally will be in Texas. Trump's team announced he'll hold a rally this Saturday evening in Waco at the regional airport there. The former president is hoping to lock in the loyalty of Texas voters, even as public support from GOP leaders in the state has lessened. Last week, Austin area Congressman Chip Roy endorsed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. DeSantis is expected to announce he's running for president. Trump's trip also comes as he's facing a possible indictment in New York. Over the weekend, he announced via social media that he expects to be arrested Tuesday. Any potential indictment of the former president will likely center around his hush money payments made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in 2016. Bobby Cusa has more.
In the lead up to the 2016 election, adult film star Stormy Daniels wanted to go public with her story of an affair with Donald Trump 10 years prior. But Daniels kept quiet thanks to a $130,000 payment from longtime Trump fixer Michael Cohen. Cohen would later plead guilty to federal charges stemming from that payment and other crimes, but federal prosecutors never brought a case against Trump. Enter Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
We have an ongoing active investigation concerning the former president.
Bragg is now pursuing Trump, who repaid Cohen for the hush money. That payment was then misclassified by the Trump Organization as legal expenses. That could result in a misdemeanor charge of falsification of records. It would only result in a felony charge if tied to a second crime. That alleged crime could be a campaign finance violation, since the hush money benefited Trump's presidential bid and could therefore have been properly considered a campaign donation. Cohen has testified against Trump before the grand jury.
This case is not going to be predicated on any one individual, but rather it's going to be predicated on the documents, the evidence, the text messages, the emails. They have a tremendous amount of information.
Trump has denied an affair with Daniels and initially denied knowledge of the hush money payment. His attorney now says Trump is a victim of extortion and, like Trump himself, has attacked Bragg.
He's a very democratic prosecutor, that's been supported by the far left, going after perhaps the most far right guy you have out there. And I think he's thinking, if I prosecute him, I take him out of candidacy.
If charged with a felony, Trump would face a sentence of up to 4 years. Though legal experts say even if convicted, he could get off with no prison time at all. Bobby Cusa for Spectrum News.
And that is all the time that we have tonight. We're back again tomorrow with the latest in Texas politics. Until then, thanks for watching. Stay safe and have a great night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. For more refreshing stories about your community, click the subscribe button over here. You can also download our Spectrum News app and tune in to Channel 55 on Dish and DirecTV to get live news coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.